They've got a tough schedule ahead of them, but as you all think, Boston College still should be a bowl team in 2024.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, your definitive home for Boston College news over on the 247 network. On today's show, we put up a poll with 15 questions on it asking about the upcoming season. And we're going to break this up into the next two shows. Today, we're going to look at your predictions for the upcoming season on the schedule. And on tomorrow's show, pending there's no big news item that breaks, we're going to look at your individual choices in terms of statistical leaders for BC. So this could be a two-part episode. Hope you enjoy it because you were part of the poll that created these answers. So we now know Bill O'Brien's the head coach. Boston College is ready for their 2024 season after spring practice ended on April 13th with the Jay McGillis spring game at Alumni Stadium. With a new staff, a new coaching philosophy, and everything else that Bill O'Brien's bringing in, the expectations are starting to get higher for Boston College than they would have been if Jeff Hafley was here. You saw what Hafley could do. You saw the schedule ahead of him, and you knew this is going to be a tough one if Hafley stays around. But O'Brien has been a winner, whether it's been at as a coordinator, whether it's at Alabama or with the Patriots, or as a head coach with Penn State in Houston. He's won. So folks are feeling better about this. So to get ourselves into this, I put on Eagle Insider a poll. It's closed now, so you can't vote anymore, so don't try. Asking you, the readers, to vote on a variety of questions. And I said I'm going to go over it on the website and on the podcast. So without further ado, let's go over some of these questions. And I'm going to give you my input as well. In case you have not seen, this is the schedule for the upcoming season. BC starts the season off against Florida State. They play at Tallahassee. Then they go to Duquesne. They host at Duquesne. They go back on the road against Missouri, host Michigan State, host Western Kentucky, 2-game trip in Virginia with Virginia and Virginia Tech. Then back-to-back home games with Louisville and Syracuse, away at SMU, and then home against North Carolina, home against Pitt. That's the 2024 schedule. Here's the first question. How many games will BC win in the regular season? And the highest answer, getting 29% of the votes, was 7 regular season wins. That's an incredible answer. That means against that tough schedule, the biggest percentage of BC fans thinks they're going to win more games than last year, even with tougher opponents. I have a hard time buying that as a potential, and I want to see this team do well, obviously, right? It's good for business. It's good to talk about if they're playing well. But when you play in your first 3 weeks, 2 top 10 teams with Florida State and Missouri, or 2 borderline top 10 teams, you're already starting the season off behind the 8 ball. Could they win one of those? Sure could, but I wonder about that. Now, you look at this, it's spread out too, because the next most popular answer was 6 wins, then followed by 8 wins. 8 wins. Someone out there is loving things. And I'm going to say this, 47 of you voted for 10 wins. Man, I would love some of whatever you have at home, because 10 wins, that would be quite the season. And I know it's a BC blog. You guys, people are going to vote with their heart. They want to see BC win. And it's a running joke with Boston College fans to vote to say that you're going to go 10-2 every year. That's been a long standing tradition since the days of Tom O'Brien. Me, if I were a betting man, if you're going to ask me, and I will give you my official predictions, and I'm not locked in yet. I got to say that right now. It's only May. I got to see what, watch some practices this summer. Mitch and I will come back in August later to give my official prediction. But if I was a betting man, if I was using FanDuel right now, my number I land on is 6. I think 6 is a good number. It puts into effect the amount of tough games that you have, but also balances it with the good coaching staff that you have. If I was to go with my next likeliest pick, you guys are gonna hate me for this one. I'd say 5 wins. Yeah, I'm gonna go that route. I actually would go more towards the doom and gloom answer. Boo, AJ. Yeah, 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 I know. But again, if I'm a betting man, I go with the more likely odds here. That would be that. So that was your answer. You 30% picked 7 wins, total of 55%, 52% think they're going to be bowl eligible, basically 6 or 7 wins, or 5 if you want to consider that they get a waiver. What will be Boston College's record against relatively even teams? Now, for this, I only put 5. I probably should have put SMU on there, but uh, they were a top 25 team, so I'm not going to put them on there. The most common answer, the most frequent response was 3-2. They're going to go 3-2. There was 105 answers. Followed secondly with 35% saying 4-1. And the lowest, no real Debbie Downers out there. The option of 1-4, and I forgot to put 0-5 on there. I apologize. This is my new trying to learn how to use these polls. And once I put it up and realized I screwed up, people already voted, so I couldn't change it. 1-4 only had 5 votes out of 200 plus. So again, this is a little bit more realistic. 3-2. Michigan State's going to be a tough team. They're well coached. They've got a good, head coach coming in Jonathan Smith. They've got Aiden Childs, a quarterback that they're bringing in a ton of transfers, which could be good or bad. They're going to be a tough out, but teams like Syracuse, I think BC could beat. Pitt, please. I think Pitt got lucky last year because they ran into Halfley. I don't think Bill O'Brien will have those same issues. Western Kentucky, I think they should be able to beat. And UVA, I think they should be able to beat. I think 3-2 or 4-1 against that group is not out of the realm of possibilities. I think that's a strong likelihood that they can pull off 4 wins. And that's the thing with predictions is you could talk to your faces blue and you look and you analyze all those games. And then when you actually get to the games, or the end of the season, the outcomes are always different. So you never know. Like maybe Michigan State is really good. Maybe they figure something out and Syracuse is really bad. Maybe there's an injury that happens. But right now, I don't know. I feel like I like BC's chances against those types of teams. I felt in the last 4 years, Halfley learning on the job made it harder to, really feel confident in those spots. I mean, look at last year, right? Pitt was awful and beat BC. Northern Illinois was bad and beat BC. UConn almost beat BC last year. They beat them the year before. The hope here is that O'Brien will instill a culture that will make BC tough, that will make them win these types of games. Because if you look at this schedule, if you look who those teams I put up there, you have Michigan State at home, Syracuse at home, Pitt at home, Virginia away, and Western Kentucky home. So the 50-50 games are the games that are, right in your wheelhouse, they're at home. That should be wins. So that you guys thought those more likely than not should be wins as well. Now, in a moment, I'm going to get into some more poll results that you put up. We'll get into some of your results, and we'll talk all about that in just a moment. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the job. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to a perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. We're looking at that schedule. We're talking about what you, the listeners and readers, think will be happening in 2024. We're getting your feedback, talking about what your choices are, what you think, to some tough questions about the upcoming season. The next question that we talked about: what game could be a potential upset that Boston College could win? Now, if you were going to use SP Plus, which is on ESPN, I think BC is like the underdog in like 9 or 10 of the games. I don't use SP Plus because I want to talk about, as I said, there's purish teams that I feel like BC should be on the same level with. SP Plus will probably say that Syracuse should be a huge favorite. I'm not there yet. I'm looking at these 4 teams as the big favorites. We have Florida State, Missouri, UNC, and Louisville. I probably should have put Virginia Tech on here too. With Kyron Drones looking one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, the way they played them last year, and the fact you're going into Blacksburg, that should have been on there as well. And I apologize, I did not put that on. So I'll own that. I made a mistake. The most popular answer that you guys gave is UNC. UNC is at home near the end of November. Good choice. The second most popular answer is FSU. I've heard a lot of folks think this. It's interesting. Even though Florida State went undefeated until their team quit before and I'm not blaming them because I would have probably I think they did it for there's no wrong answer for what they did, but they quit for that Georgia game. They were undefeated up to that point. I think a lot of folks will look back at that game BC played Florida State and how BC almost beat them, and think that they could do it again next year. And there's a definite possibility. Like DJU, the new quarterback from that was on Clemson and Oregon State. I think a lot of folks might argue Jordan Travis is a better quarterback than him. They lost a ton of players. They've also brought, and I can't keep track of who they brought in the portal because they've just been, basically rebuilding their roster over and over again. But it's week 1. They played Georgia Tech in Dublin the week before. You're going to Tallahassee, which I can't remember the last time they won there. It must be like 2009, 2010. It's been a long time. That's going to be tough. Another team that's on there, Missouri, they only had 12% of the vote. BC beat them a while ago, but this Missouri team is a completely different animal than the team that they played in 2021. Luther Burden, their wide receiver, is probably the best wide receiver in the country. And when you have a secondary that still has question marks, that's going to be a tough one. Louisville, they smoked you last year. You get them at home. You got to see how this team looks. They're a very good team. And UNC is the popular one. And I love this choice because it falls into a pattern I think that UNC falls into, where they go into a season filled with expectations and they live up to that expectation for a while until they fall apart, usually in the second half of the season. So you're getting them when they could fall apart. And they're not as talented as when they had Drake May. Drake May is a very good quarterback, and hopefully he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time for my Patriots. I'm just kidding. But, you're bringing in Max Johnson. They're not a consistent team. I've been on the show with Candace Cooper, who's a UNC grad, and she's always like, do not put faith in the Tar Heels. They'll let you down every time. And every time I was on the Locked On ACC show talking about the Tar Heels, she was dead right. They'd always disappoint me whenever I picked them. So I look at this as a game that BC could potentially win. It's at home. It's in November. It's cold. End of the season. You could catch the Tar Heels napping here. That's a good one. I like that choice that had 46.1% of fan votes were up for the Tar Heels. The least popular answer was Missouri. A road game, totally get that. Now, in a moment, we're going to wrap things up. We have a few more answers that we're going to get to, and I'll give you my thoughts on each of those. We'll be back in just a moment. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And if you want recruiting news, come over to Eagle Insider. We've got a lot of stuff going on right now. I'll give you a big board on the edge rushers. Tomorrow, I'll have the defensive tackles. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. We're just 2 weeks away from the start of official visit season, and that's going to be bonkers on the site. So you want to make sure you sign up soon. All right, next question. Where will Boston College finish in the ACC? Now, again, this was another mistake, a question where I left off an answer, and it could have been an interesting thing to see, but based off of where you put the answers, it probably wouldn't have mattered. The most popular answer on this, where will Boston College finish in the ACC? Remember, it's 17 teams now. The most popular answer was 6 to 8. 6th place to 8th place. And that had 37%. Followed by 4th to 5th place, where people are feeling pretty good about this team with 30%. I put down 9th to 11th or 12th to 14th, and those had 20% and 4% respectively. 6th to 8th is pretty aggressive in the conference because that means ACC wins. You remember the standings are based off of conference wins. I think 9th to 11th for me, which only had 20% of the votes, would be my choice. You're playing a tough schedule. And there's teams like Syracuse that played, pretty cupcake schedule. They got an easier road than BC. This is not a knock on the program. I'm just saying, as I said, I think BC is going to go 6 and 6. So 9th to 11th place seems like an answer for me. And then if you want the people that are crazy or cray, 17 of you picked first to 3rd place with 7% of the vote. Man, create a statue already next to Doug Flutie for Bill O'Brien, if that's the or Tommaso Castellanos, if that's the case. That is something. All right, and our next question. How many ACC games will Boston College win? And the most popular answer is BC's going to go 500 with 4 ACC wins. Next popular is 5, and after that is 3rd. So let's look at that schedule again. I could see BC winning against. I like your picks. You're upset. So I would say North Carolina, loving that choice. Pitt, they're going to be bad. Syracuse, they could beat. I do not have faith in Missouri. There's 4 right there, and I look at teams like SMU, and then maybe another team, whether it's Florida State, Virginia Tech, as a potential. Right? Believe me, I'm not saying they're going to win those games, but 4 to me sounds like a real potential choice. And I think that's what I would go. I think I agree with you guys on that one. I think 4 is the most popular answer here and the one I would go with too. So those are our choices. Those are what you guys came up with. And I love your answers. And on tomorrow's show, we're going to go over things like rushing, who's going to lead the team in rushing. And it's not as cut and dry as you may think. We're going to look at receiving yards. Who's going to be the leader there? How many yards will Thomas Castellanos throw for? We'll get into all of those, kind of give ourselves a little preview. And if there's any breaking news, we'll also have that up on the show. It's been quiet the last couple of days. I can tell you, I'll give you a little bit of background of what's going on. There was a high school showcase for class of 25 and beyond recruits in Connecticut on Monday. I know schools like St. Thomas More and some of the other bigger programs in Connecticut were there. I know the staff was there because they offered a kid from Germany who's a big offensive. I think he's an offensive or defensive lineman. He's like 6'7". And they made one offer there. There's been some new official visits that's been announced. Cameron Brown, a a edge rusher from California. He announced that he's going to be taking an official visit. My all-time favorite recruit in this class in terms of names, Cole Cogshell, who I really hope BC just lands so I could talk about Cole Cogshell a lot. He's also from John Muir in California. He's an edge rusher. He named his official visit. We're up to about close to 40 official visitors now. That means these are all guys that are going to check out BC that could potentially pop in the next month or so. Man, we're going to be busy talking about all of this on Locked On BC in a couple of weeks. We're going to get there first. It's kind of quiet, but I'm going to make this interesting for you. Darn it, that's my job. I'm going to make Locked On BC fun. We'll talk more about this. We'll get into everything else in between on tomorrow's show. So this is AJ Black. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Hit that like and subscribe button before you head out. Tell your friends about Locked On BC. We love to get new listeners. We love hearing that you have been recommending it to friends too. And see you tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.